All right. Hello, Celynd, and hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, another wonderful episode of Sex in the Bull City. I am Dr. Sophia Dorton Caudle, and this is my friend and associate, Celynd Malone. And we are really happy to be here with y'all today. Thanks for joining us. And um, we're going to talk about something that is very timely and hopefully going to be very helpful to everyone who's listening today. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of having an effective plan in place for sobriety and recovery, especially during the holidays. So, this is important always, but holidays are a very triggering time for a lot of us. It's a time that we are with usually our family of origin, which is where many of our issues were created and born. And so being back with our families or being around a lot of people or being alone during the holidays, any of those
Mhm.
and any combination of those can bring up a lot of feelings for us that sometimes are hard to experience during a holiday season when we might see on TV or see around us that, or if you're on social media, that of course everyone is much happier than we are, and everyone's life is perfect and ours is not. And so this is really a time that it's just important to have a plan in place so that we can be safe and we can be staying in our lane of recovery. So Celynd and I thought this would be a great thing to talk about today, since we're in the middle of the holidays and both of us specialize in sex addiction. And I'm super happy to be having this conversation with you, Celynd. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I think this is a very timely issue. I know for Thanksgiving and for all of the winter holidays, um, I have had clients who have said, "This is a time for me that is really difficult. I'm going to be with my parents. I'm going to be with, um, I'm going to be my childhood bedroom, or, whatever it is that triggering event. I think it triggers some of the schema that we talk about, some of those ways that we see ourselves, those ways that we interact with our family. And those things, they're very stressful, and they might even be traumatic. And I think if you don't plan for having some sort of sobriety plan, you're not going to stay sober. And having that plan in place is good self-care.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important not only to stay sober, but when I work with my clients who have long-term recovery, or when I think about my own long-term recovery, these are actually opportunities. Because I mean, staying sober for many of us, that stops being a thing really earlier on in recovery. But having these times of triggering or being around our family of origin or the holidays, these are times of opportunity to really grow our recovery. And a solid sobriety and recovery plan is going to deepen that growth. And that's really what lifelong long-term recovery is about. It's not only about staying sober, which is frankly the easy part. The hard part is doing that root cause work. And so
Mhm.
but both are important. It's all important. And part of us, a main strategy of getting to be someone who is in long-term recovery is having a schedule and having a plan. And
Mhm.
for people who work with me, a word that I use about early recovery is this is some important business, number one. And
Mhm.
we have to treat this almost in a militant way, because we've got to be on top of it, and we've got to anticipate before addiction can come and bite us in the butt and surprise us. And so one of the things I talk about, like while I'm creating a sobriety plan, is, and I talk a bit about this always, this is something I learned early in recovery, I keep my addiction close to me. If
Mhm.
I pretend that it's fine, I'm good, life is perfect, everything's rosy, and my addiction's over there, it's on the other side of the room, that's when it can sneak up on me. So for me, part of a good sobriety plan is being very honest with myself and keeping my addiction here so that I know I can take a read on it. I know where it's at. I know where I'm at. I know what's going on. And it's not going to surprise me like it's here. And I can still have other things around me here, but my addiction is it's going to be close to me so that I'm always keeping a check on myself. That's part of my sobriety plan. Um, Hopefully that's helpful to people. And we can maybe talk more about that at some point about what that really means, because that throws people sometimes when I say that. But that's
Right.
that's kind of an old-timey addiction strategy. Yeah, I'm showing my age here. Um, yeah,
Paying attention to yourself, I think, is kind of the aim that you're going for there, like knowing what's going on in yourself and not getting over busy, not getting distracted, not dissociating. And this is a really easy time, even if you don't have family stuff. Even if you're just super busy buying presents or going to parties or whatever it is you're dealing with. Um, it's really easy to not pay attention to yourself during this time.
yeah, that's so true. Abandoning of the self. Yeah,
Mhm.
so so we've talked a little bit about why it's important to have an effective sobriety or recovery plan. Let's talk for a few minutes about what a good plan looks like. What are
For
some things
sure.
that you think are really important, Celynd?
Uh, I I would start with connection. Who do you need to connect with that is safe for you, that is um, somebody that you already kind of have a connection with? Because that connection is part of the cure, right? That, I mean, that's just that's addiction 101. Um, but I think having a plan for who you're going to reach out to and they know the calls are coming. Maybe it's somebody in the program, maybe it's a close friend. It needs to be somebody that understands what's going on with you, um, so that you can reach out. Maybe you're, scheduling that time, um, plus kind of some like the ability to call somebody on the fly if you need it. I think you need both of those things when you're going to connect. That's the first priority to me.
I think that's key, and it's one of the most important strategies for healthy living and also addiction recovery. 100%. Connection is the cure. It's the cure to addiction, anxiety, depression, fear, loneliness. Also, it's part of grief recovery, so it's wildly important. We know through neuroscience how connection, healthy connection, actually
Mhm.
positively affects the brain, and it gets right in those, it creates the neural pathways that we want. And so that's incredibly important. I'm glad we talked about this first. Yeah, connection. So I like for my people to have a schedule. I'm big on schedules. Again, that word militant. I want everything written down. I want to see it before they leave town or see it before the holidays start. There's accountability with me and with the sponsor. I want to see what meetings they're going to, when they've scheduled their phone calls or their Zooms with recovery partners. And I definitely, you've got to have 2 or 3 people on your phone call list that you can call on the fly. Like you said, that's
Mhm.
important because we don't plan our triggers. I don't know how y'all are. I wish I knew when my triggers were going to happen. That would be great. I could plan ahead of time. But, especially the holidays, this is a time where things just pop up. And again, for me, that's why I like my addiction to be close to me, because I want to know where my addiction's at and where my interaction, my relationship with my addiction is. So for me, it's more than just my own self-awareness. It's I want to know how much energy and power this thing has at any given time. And So yeah, I think that a plan for connection is imperative.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think another place that you touched on there was the schedule.
Yeah.
Having some predictability, even if it needs to be flexible, having some predictability, especially around self-care, maybe scheduling breakfast, lunch, and dinner, scheduling some water breaks, things like that, that can be touchstones during your day, um, that you feel some structure. I think that structure can be really soothing to the nervous system
Yeah.
when everything else is in flux.
Yeah. I think you actually said some things that I wasn't even thinking about, like basic self-care on the schedule. That's
Mm.
wildly important. Exercise, meditation. For me, it's a non-negotiable. Anybody I work with has to have exercise on their schedule and meditation, because we know, again, I pay attention to neuroscience, that we know how effective regular exercise. It doesn't have to be like you're like running a marathon or anything, but just basic health, basic healthy exercise, basic meditation, mindfulness meditation is so effective, so positively effective on the brain and on how we feel. So, this whole sobriety and recovery business for me, it's not just about being clean and sober, which is obviously important, but it's also about feeling better and living the life we want to live. And when we talk about people, we're whole people. We're not just, I'm not just an addict, like we're a whole person. I know plenty of addicts who are not, drinking, drugging, or acting out, but they're sober without recovery and they're miserable. So when we
Mhm.
take away the thing that's our only friend and we don't do any personal work, what we're left with is just kind of like a gaping open wound of misery. So
Mhm.
recovery fixes that. The deep personal work fixes that. And it's so important to be able to feed our whole self in that way. So I love that about the self-care on the schedule. Drinking water, what a great thing to put on a schedule, like a little timer. Drink my water, or go meditate for 5 minutes. Go take 30 seconds of cleansing breaths outside for 3 minutes. I mean, how
Mhm.
amazing is that? Especially like when the air is cold, like it is in the winter in some
For
places.
sure.
Yeah, you can like breathe in that cold air. Like it feels like, it's so energizing. So those are great things to put on a schedule, and just basic um love and care for ourselves. That's super important. Thank you, Celynd. What else do we have that goes into an effective sobriety or recovery plan? One thing that I mentioned earlier that I wanted to say a little bit more clearly, this whole notion of not abandoning ourselves.
Mm.
So, so often, and you mentioned earlier, when we're distracted, the way I think about that is that's just another way to abandon myself.
Mhm.
And when we're talking about abandonment, um, many of us experienced abandonment in some way, when we were very young. Emotional abandonment, emotional neglect. We don't all get everything we need. In fact, no one gets everything that they need when we're little. Even people who come from the most healthy and functional families, there's always some lack that we come away with. And, an effective sobriety plan for any time, not just the holidays, learning how to tend to ourselves and allow ourselves to feel our authentic feelings is a way to not abandon ourselves. So when we pay
Mm.
attention to ourselves and invite feelings to be felt, or give ourselves permission to step away and go connect with someone if we're getting triggered, during the holidays or whatever our situation might be, um, those are ways to very directly create a new neural pathway in the brain where we are actually tending to ourselves and not abandoning ourselves. Because when we are abandoned when we're little, well, that's how we learn how to abandon ourselves. And addiction is the ultimate abandonment of the self. And so there are so many ways, that really small ways actually, that make a huge difference, that really send a big message to ourselves that, if I allow myself to feel this feeling, if I invite myself to step away and go call a friend to help myself get grounded, if I invite myself to go meditate for 5 minutes, even when the whole family is here, but I'm taking care of me, that's sending a big message to me that I am important and I matter. And these are messages that addicts and people everywhere, that we need to really internalize. So I just wanted to name that not abandoning ourselves is huge to have on a sobriety plan.
I like that. Putting it in terms of that pattern that formed so early for us. I think another way that I see that applying is in paying attention to ourselves when we are, um, and this is back to the scheduling thing, to see where we are with our addiction. You said you like to keep it close, you like to pay attention to it. And I think putting on the schedule a check-in, like, where am I in relationship to that addiction? If you use the three circles of outer, middle, and inner, using that as a metric for how am I doing, and paying attention to, am I starting into middle circle behavior? Am I starting toward the path of um, relapse or just disconnection?
Mhm.
And I think that uh, that kind of sums up all of the things that we've been saying, about scheduling, about not abandoning yourself and paying attention. Yeah, that's what I think about that.
Well, I love that. So the big message that I've really heard today, like the importance of scheduling check-ins for lots of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that actually would be incredibly helpful. You know, I think check-ins are most effective when we kind of pepper them in, and they might
Mm-hmm.
be different. Like, oh, what am I checking in right now about? Oh, today, oh, here's my check-in for right now. I need to drink this entire water
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have any sips in the past 2 hours. So here's my check-in now. I'm going to feed myself. I'm going to not abandon myself by drinking this entire glass of water. And, another check-in, oh, where am I in relation to my addiction? My
Mm-hmm.
addiction kind of quiet right now. Oh, good. My addiction's quiet. Yay. And so I can kind of, move about my world knowing it's still here. It could get loud anytime it feels like it. But really paying attention to where am I here if my addiction is quiet? Am I seeking, or am I kind of in this place of peace? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that having, I mean, that could be really effective to have different purposes for our check-ins at different times of the day,
Mm-hmm.
not to overwhelm us, but
Oh.
yeah, when I work with clients, I might have 2 or 3 check-ins a day about various different things.
Mm-hmm.
I do different things on my calendar. I might have an alert come up to do this or that um,
Mm-hmm.
when I need it. And so, everything we're talking about right now doesn't need to be difficult. This is really a conversation about working smarter, not harder.
Mm-hmm.
Working hard in the areas that we need to, absolutely.
The deep work.
Yeah. And but what's awesome about sobriety and recovery 12-step, however you want to go about it, is we've got like 80 or 90 pretty amazing years behind us that people have refined how to do this. And so, Celynd and I don't have to come around now and reinvent the wheel. Like, this has already been done. And so, we can learn from really smart people who have come before us so that we can work with you, work with people, come up with great ideas that can be individual to you, and how sobriety and recovery can be helpful to you and everyone else who wants our help. And so that's one thing I love about 12 step is we know what works. Like this, we do have this down to a science, and now we have the neuroscience to actually prove why it's worked all these decades, which is amazing. So yeah, so connecting with others for a sobriety and recovery plan, schedule. So scheduling is important, having structure, checking in with yourself. These are huge things that we've talked about today. Making sure you've got meetings on your schedule, not abandoning yourself. So giving yourself permission to feel feelings, calling someone to help you get grounded if you need it, connecting with your higher power. We haven't mentioned that, but that's important. And Celynd, before we sign off, you were sharing with me something I thought was really cool right before we started. Can you finish our message today with talking about gratitude and that app you were mentioning? I thought that sounded really cool.
Yeah, one of the things that a lot of my clients put on their sobriety plan is gratitude, and how that can be very attitude changing. And that can be one of the checkpoints that you want to check in with yourself during the day. There is an app called 3 Good Things, and several of my clients use it, and they use it to remind them every day. You can set a reminder, and it just prompts you to put in 3 things that you're grateful for and kind of how you feel about that. And it can be super short. It can take all of 3 minutes. I do it myself, and I really appreciate the simplicity of it, but also the focus of it, because you're focusing on the good parts of where you are in life. And so often, some of my clients will even send me the screenshot of their 3 good things. And so often the things that they're grateful for are recovery related.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to check it out for sure. And, for me, early in recovery, what I learned, and I was actually just sharing this today with someone, that, it's the free things in life that recovery has really brought me to deeply feel grateful for and appreciate. So I love that app. I think that sounds amazing. I'm going to check it out. I am super grateful for you, Celynd, and so happy to have you here and to know you and to be working with you and getting to know you better as a friend. So I'm just very grateful to you, and grateful that we're here on this podcast. Grateful for all of Bull City family, clients and staff and associates. And I'm just super happy to have this podcast up and running again with my girl Celynd. And we have a great schedule that we're going to be sharing with y'all soon for topics. If you have topics that you want to hear from us, please email us at sophia@bullcitypsychotherapy.com or celynd@bullcitypsychotherapy.com. Until our next episode, everyone, take care and happy holidays. Thanks, Celynd, so much. Great to see you.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.